Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the new album from Frankie Ballard, titled Sunshine and Whiskey. But first, let's talk again about bro country, because at this point, its prevalence in mainstream country is really starting to get on my nerves, and not for the reason you might think. As I've said in the past, bro country is a qualifying term. It's a subgenre, not immediately a denigrating factor. Just because something is bro country doesn't immediately make it bad or good. But since it's everywhere, it immediately colors some of my expectations when it comes to certain acts debuting from out of nowhere. I mean, I can take a look at the album cover, that one hit single that gets popular on mainstream radio, and the track list overloaded with Music Row's Songwriting Machine, and I can make a snap judgment on what part of the subgenre it belongs to. But now, I'm not sure that snap judgment holds up anymore. Both Eric Posley and to a lesser extent John Party surprised me by being more than just their hit singles and actually being promising country artists when I delved into their albums. In other words, I'm not really quite sure what to expect going into an act like Frankie Ballard, who recently released his second album, Sunshine and Whiskey. And on the surface, this looks like the archetypal bro country album. He has only one writing credit on this record. You have a selection of Nashville's finest writing for this guy, and his lead single, Hell of a Life, fits directly into the softer, bros trying to be sensitive brand of country that's popular right now, as bro country tries to show that it has variety, relevance, and mainstream staying power. And considering he's yet another male country star with an underwritten Wikipedia page and was introduced to the world via a contest run by Kenny Chesney, I had no high hopes that this album was going to be anything close to good. But you know what? I've been surprised in the past, so I went into this record with the slightest hope that even if it was bro country, it'd be listenable. Was I right? Well, look guys, to be honest, it's an album that's tolerable, it's agreeable, but it's not one that I can especially like or can recommend to you. Make no mistake, Sunshine and Whiskey by Frankie Ballard, it's bro country, plain and simple. And honestly, if it was just that, this album, it might have gotten a pass from me. But there are some significant problems on this record that I can't really overlook, and it's enough to say that this album, it's definitely not for me, if that means anything to you. For one, I can understand why Kenny Chesney actually likes this guy, because Frankie Ballard is playing in the very same roadhouse that Jimmy Buffett built and Kenny Chesney has been ripping off for years. Now, I don't have any real vitriol for Jimmy Buffett. The man has written some incredibly dumb songs, but he's also got a knack for infusing his brand of golf and western music with occasional insight and weight. But like with most of Kenny Chesney's work, Frankie Ballard doesn't really bring that level of nuance to the table, or indeed much insight at all. The two best songs on this album are probably the smartest ones, Young and Crazy and It Don't Take Much. The former being a rather agreeable justification for partying hard that it works on a shallow level, and the second showing how if you're not careful with your fun, you could very quickly screw up your life, which is an acknowledgement you don't often see in most bro country, so I appreciated that. But it would be a stretch to say this album has anything close to real intelligence or nuance, because the lyrics get really stupid in a hurry. After all, this is an album that has the interchangeable and leering bro country track titled Drinky Drink, which to my shock was not written by Dallas Davidson. No, that particular songwriter contributed Tell Me You Get Lonely, which is a guilt trip song trying to convince an ex to get back together with Frankie by playing on her loneliness. Classy. Yes, I know he says he's lonely too, but that just ascertains his motives. It doesn't exactly excuse his behavior. And that's not even tackling the songs where they try for depth and end up screwing it up. Namely the album closer, Don't Tell Mama I Was Drinking, which is an old, it's a pretty sad George Jones song about drunk driving that Frankie, unfortunately, decides to pump up with some meatier instrumentation that completely strips away some of that song's real weight and emotional poignancy. The closest, in fact, he comes to any sort of deeper insight would probably be Tip Jar, the one ballad on this album that does have some lyrical flair and a pretty good atmosphere, but it never really adds up to much beyond, hey, girls leave money in the tip jar, and occasionally they try to flirt with you, and occasionally we can't have that connection. The tip jar is the only place where we can have it. So yeah, okay, it's not bad there, but it didn't really work. It doesn't really resonate with me all that much. I'll accept that. Now, part of this might be Ballard's vocal delivery. Many people have made the comparison with Gary Allan, and you know what? I can see it, but Ballard's voice just isn't very strong for conveying deeper emotions. And while he has a lot of energy, I wouldn't say that he's a great singer. On top of that, the dry, nasal raspiness to his delivery really doesn't help him on some of the sleazier tracks, which unfortunately makes them come across as even more obnoxious in the vein of Tyler Farr. On the plus side, though, he does seem to be enjoying himself and never really bothers with the alpha male posturing that I find really abhorrent and obnoxious in bro country, which I guess is the one thing I can thank for Kenny Chesney's influence for. But if I've got all these relatively negative things to say, why don't I have a stronger negative opinion on this record? Well, the instrumentation on this album, it pretty much saves it. The production is inconsistent. Sometimes the guitar is a little too processed, the cymbals a little bit too prominent in the mix, some of the synthetic elements and backing vocals just feel out of place at points. But when it works, this is probably one of the better mixed and better instrumental bro country albums that I've heard this year. There's a lot of energy in the guitars, some surprising instrumental diversity, some organ texture that I always like, and the guitar work from Ballard is actually pretty damn solid. On the other hand, I wasn't exactly blown away by any of the hooks, and I could swear the song Sober Me Up lifts pretty much the same chords from Pink's collaboration with Steven Tyler back in 2001 called Misery. And since I like Misery, that was a little bit annoying to me. But you know what? It's the tone of this album that I find both its biggest strength and biggest weakness, and ultimately the part that frustrates me the most. It's very laid back, it's very casual, it's mellow, and it does that tone well. But that's not a tone of music that resonates with me whatsoever. I've gone on in the past why I don't like music in the white guy with acoustic guitar vein, and tonally, this album fits that bill. If it was going for greater meaning and depth, well, it really didn't work, but I get the feeling that it wasn't really trying to do that. In other words, I can't really criticize this album for being lightweight and mellow. It didn't fail to be deep because it didn't try for that, because honestly, that was the sound he was trying to go for. And even though it's not my thing, I can't really criticize it on that note. But on the same page here, even though this album is not to my taste on a tonal level, I still don't think it's very strong, even by the standards of its genre. It's not bad or offensive bro country like, I don't know, like Thomas Rhett or Tyler Farr, but it's not exactly good bro country either, and I'm left feeling really ambivalent to this album. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, but keep in mind this record's style is not my thing. It'll probably go over better if you fit the target audience. And it'll probably be played on repeat in a frat house at some point this summer, so don't get hung up on the number here. I wouldn't exactly call it quality, but hell, you could do a lot worse. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. If there's anything I might be able to do to improve my presentation, or if there's any other albums coming out this year that you'd like me to cover, I'd be more than happy to give them a listen. Until then, see you next time.